Looking at this map of the Aegean Sea in the mid-5th century BC, you can see the Greek city-states fresh off a collective victory against the massive Persian Empire. To defend against future attacks, they formed an alliance called the Delian League. Over the next few decades, the city-state of Athens leveraged this defensive pact, extracting tribute from its allies and transforming the League into an aggressive, seafaring empire. Watching this rapid expansion from the southern Peloponnese was Sparta. Sparta was an elite, landlocked military society, relying strictly on ground superiority and rigid discipline. To them, the growing Athenian navy was an existential threat. Athens possessed untouchable wealth and total naval dominance, controlling the major trade routes. Sparta commanded an invincible land army. They were two incompatible systems of power, packed onto one small peninsula. This specific friction between an expanding sea power and a stationary land power pushed Greek record-keeping into uncharted territory. The epic poetry of Homer, or the broad cultural observations of Herodotus, weren't designed to process the logistics and political mechanics of such a standoff. An Athenian general named Thucydides recognized that this brewing conflict would likely be the most documented and analyzed struggle of his time. He made a conscious, deliberate choice to record it. His methodology was a departure from his predecessors. Thucydides discarded the idea of divine intervention or mythological fate. He applied a detached lens to the conflict, analyzing human political behavior and statecraft as a series of observable causes and effects. The intensity of the coming conflict required this shift in perspective. By stripping away the influence of the gods, Thucydides created a template for examining war through the lens of cold, human self-interest. At the outbreak in 431 BC, an immediate stalemate emerged. Sparta ravaged the Attic farmland with massive infantry. Athens responded by deploying its navy to raid the Peloponnese. Defensively, Athens pulled its population behind the long walls, importing food by sea to wait the Spartans out. But packing hundreds of thousands of people into a besieged, unsanitary space created a biological disaster. In 430 BC, a plague swept through the overcrowded city, killing roughly a third of the Athenian population. Thucydides survived the plague. He documented the symptoms and the resulting societal breakdown with clinical detachment. He recorded the death toll, including the loss of Athens' most prominent statesman, Pericles, who succumbed to the disease early in the war. Despite the plague, the fighting ground on. Athens shocked the Greek world by trapping and capturing 300 elite Spartan hoplites at the island of Sphacteria. Sparta countered by marching a force far to the north to capture Amphipolis, a critical hub for Athenian silver mines. The Athenian commander who failed to save Amphipolis was Thucydides himself. He was stripped of his rank and exiled from Athens. Ironically, this punishment gave him freedom to travel among Sparta and its allies, allowing him to interview both sides and build a detailed geopolitical record. Zooming out to the wider Mediterranean reveals the scale of Athens' next move. In 415 BC, driven by the charismatic ambition of Alcibiades, Athens launched a massive naval armada to conquer Syracuse, a powerful city-state on the distant island of Sicily. The expedition was compromised almost immediately. Recalled to Athens to face trial for religious crimes, Alcibiades defected to Sparta. He handed his enemies the exact strategic blueprints needed to defeat his own city. When Sparta sent reinforcements to Syracuse, the trapped Athenian fleet and army were decimated. Tens of thousands were killed, and the survivors sold into slavery. In the direct aftermath of this catastrophe, in the year 411 BC, the text of Thucydides breaks off mid-sentence. His analytical manuscript simply stops. This leaves a void in the record. The manuscript cuts off just as the war moves into its most volatile phase, forcing us to switch from Thucydides' detached analysis to a completely different kind of storyteller. A younger contemporary named Xenophon picks up the history exactly where Thucydides left off. Reading Xenophon's text, the Hellenica, creates a shift in tone. Where Thucydides was clinical, Xenophon is dramatic and moralizing. He shifts the focus away from statecraft to examine individual character flaws and ethical failures. Through Xenophon's lens, we see the final act of the conflict. The politician Alcibiades flip-flops his loyalties again, briefly returning to command Athenian forces before being exiled once more, and is eventually assassinated by Persian soldiers. Meanwhile, Sparta came to a strategic realization. Even after the disaster in Sicily, Athens was rebuilding its ships. The only way an infantry-based land army could permanently defeat a naval power was to build a fleet of its own. Constructing a navy required vast amounts of timber and silver. To get it, a Spartan general named Lysander made a deal with an old enemy. He secured the massive funding required to build the fleet from the Persian prince Cyrus the Younger. Armed with Persian gold, the Spartan navy hunted down the Athenians. In 405 BC, at the Battle of Aegospotami, Lysander caught the Athenian fleet pulled up on a beach, vulnerable, and destroyed almost every single ship. Their naval supremacy was permanently broken. Blockaded by sea, starved by land, Athens surrendered in 404 BC. Sparta forced them to dismantle their long walls and dissolve the Delian League. The Spartan victory did not bring stability. Decades of war had ravaged the Greek world. The farmlands were burned, the treasuries were empty, and both the victors and the defeated were economically and militarily exhausted. This map shows the resulting power vacuum. Just a few decades later, the Kingdom of Macedon, led by Philip II and his son Alexander the Great, expanded south, sweeping through and conquering the divided and depleted Greek city-states. While the Peloponnesian War ended the independence of the Greek city-states, the surviving texts of Thucydides and Xenophon provided a permanent record of the conflict. Their work gave us the first tools to study how power is gathered, used, and lost.